Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call today's regular council meeting for July 18th to order. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. That brings us to our first order of business for today, which is adoption of the agenda. Council, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing nothing from council. Administration, are there any changes?
Through the chair, just one change we're recommending is item 6.3, rescheduling the August 1st council meeting.
Okay, thank you, administration. Council, we would need a motion to amend the agenda. Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that we add 6.3, rescheduling August 1st council meeting to the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor, is there any comments, questions, or discussion?
Just a moment.
Councillor Haas.
Yeah, so Jen, this is Mr. Campbell. We have to add that to the agenda, then we'll do that. Okay, you got that? Okay.
Okay, council, any comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, we will call that to vote. No, sorry. Well, not to adopt, we have to amend the agenda first and then adopt it. So the motion is to amend the agenda. Okay, that's fine. Council, there's a motion to, sorry, Councillor Haas, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah.
Councillor Haas, or council, there is a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Please vote now. Okay, thank you, Councillor LaBerge. So that's carried unanimously. And that brings us to council minutes for adoption. If we could get a motion to adopt minutes. Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that we adopt the regular council minutes for July 4th, 2023, please.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor, is there any comments or questions? Seeing none, we will call to question the council adopt the regular council meeting minutes from July 4th, 2023. Please vote now. And that's carried unanimously. And that brings us to citizens minute with council. Are there any citizens who would like to speak to council today? Yep, come forward and take a seat at the desk there. And if you just want to state your name and then let us know.
Okay, my name is Pamela Zawadiak, and I've been a resident here since 1981. And I was on government site, infrastructure site, and I came across this map of applicants, Smart Cities Challenge. And it shows a bunch of, in Alberta, smart cities. And it says that the Yellowhead County was awarded $10 million to accept the challenge. And I downloaded the data and it's on here as well. And I'm just wondering why nobody knows about it. Does the town know about it?
So this is not an opportunity for back and forth.
Oh, okay.
conversation. It's just.
Oh, okay, well, I'm concerned
We
anyways.
can certainly look into it. Yeah.
Okay. That's my question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak with council?
My name is Pamela Zwadiak. I've been a resident here since 81. I live on Cheviot Drive with Switzer backing into my backyard. And what I have noticed is when we have a lot of rain, we have the sidewalk that goes behind on Switzer. And then there's a culvert that goes between the sidewalk and Switzer Drive. But there's nothing for drainage behind my property. And there's an apartment and there's 4 duplexes. And the water table, when it rains a lot, the water's got nowhere to go. So it's coming into my property. And there's no culverts, nothing. They're all between the sidewalk and Switzer Drive. Okay.
Could I ask just some clarification? Where is your property at?
Cheviot Drive.
Have you?
Yeah. And then there's the walkway behind. And then there's also poplar trees. The suckers are coming up into the property. And because I've got a mobility problem, it's hard to get rid of them. And I've asked the town to take the trees down because of the roots are coming into my property. And I just put up a brand new $10,000 vinyl fence. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Ms. Zwadiak. Is there anyone else who would like to speak with council today? Okay, seeing no one in attendance, Ms. Davy Campbell, is there anyone online?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you. So that will bring us to delegations and presentations. We have one delegation today, Curling Alberta, presented by Brittany Anderson, Jill Richard, and Michael Latteru.
Thank you. My name is Jill Richard. I'm the Executive Director of Curling Alberta, the governing body for sport in our province. I am joined by Brittany Anderson and Michael Latteru, our championships coordinators. They're the real event experts and our boots on the ground support to our host committee. I'm sure that this might not be an opportunity for a back and forth question and answer, but they are here for a bit of moral support. And if there are any questions, of course, they can chip in and help. I'd like to lead in by extending my greetings on behalf of Curling Alberta and to offer our thanks to Town Council for the opportunity to speak here today. I would like to acknowledge everyone who will play an important role in welcoming the 2024 Alberta Boston Pizza Cup to Hinton this upcoming February, including the very good people at the Hinton Curling Club and its host committee, the local business community, the recreation center, town staff and council, your participating schools, and of course, so many residents who will dedicate their time as volunteers. This championship, our men's provincial championship, has a rich history in Alberta, and it will be at your Bill Thompson Arena in February, where one of our teams will punch their ticket to the Briar just a few weeks later in the season. We're grateful to the Town Council for its support to date and for its open and collaborative approach in working with us. We understand, of course, that Council is working diligently to balance the interests of its many diverse stakeholders and objectives. I see that we definitely have a common ground in our desire to bring an event to the community that we can all take pride in, and one that will offer tremendous benefits to all our partners, stakeholders, and residents. We owe a great deal of thanks to the Hinton Minor Hockey Association and the other facility users for sharing their ice for this championship. A special thank you as well to the Town of Hinton offices. Deb, Justin, and Jen have been extremely helpful and wonderful to work with. We do understand that Sherry and Dwayne from the host committee have shared their own slide deck with you, and that Deb will be sharing her report later in the meeting, both of which will provide much more detail than I will present right now, but in respect of your time and so as not to duplicate our efforts. So my primary objective in being present today is to demonstrate Curling Alberta's support for this event, to highlight a few key benefits of hosting, and to express, of course, our appreciation and excitement toward hosting an outstanding event for your guests and your community. So maybe I'll just ask that our slide deck is shared at this point, please. Perfect. And we're already on the second slide. So while it looks a little bit fancy, we borrowed this one from Sport Tourism Canada. I'll summarize by saying that Curling Alberta is prepared in partnership with the Hinton Curling Club to conduct an economic impact assessment study to measure the positive change in economic activity resulting from hosting the Alberta Boston Pizza Cup in Hinton. And
Sorry,
of course,
sorry, Jill, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, but yeah, we're not seeing your screen sharing.
Well, here we go. Let me know when that's rectified. It looks like it's okay on my side.
Okay, I think we can see it now. That's the how it works flow chart.
It is, but on
Okay.
my side, that just went away. If you guys have it, I guess we'll roll. So to continue, I guess regardless, there are three key factors to the analysis. Firstly, the spending of out-of-town visitors while they attend the event. Secondly, the expenditures of the event organizers in producing the event. And thirdly, any capital costs that are attributed to hosting the event. So previous analysis in similar host communities indicate that the total economic impact locally has been over $600,000 for the town. If we could flip to slide number 3, please. It's just a fairly simple summary here. As I'm sure council is aware, hosting the Alberta Boston Pizza Cup will impact the community in a number of ways, all of which I believe we have in common interest. First, of course, we will be helping to build the capacity of the sports system and hence contributing to enhanced participation and better enabling residents to live active and healthy lifestyles. Second, we will look to maximize the economic and of course social benefits for the community. You can expect to generate significant revenues for local hotels, restaurants, and a variety of other businesses, see positive influence on community pride and connectedness. We're also confident and anticipate in generating a meaningful legacy for the curling club and the broader community, all of which serve to increase the quality of life for your residents overall. Thirdly, the Alberta Boston Pizza Cup typically utilizes the help of about 150 volunteers. In short, this event will bring your residents together, help combat social isolation, and provide a sense of common purpose. And just to our last slide, please. Here, oh, sorry, the last point on the previous is just a desire to highlight the town's opportunity to promote itself as a wonderful place to live and do business. Through our partnership, we'll find new engaging ways to advertise and celebrate the community and its unique culture as well as its values. And now for the last slide. Which already signals my closing remarks. Here, I hope it's not a stretch to agree that we are on common ground with respect to our interest in maximizing the social and economic impacts for your community. We've seen this proposed partnership model work very well with previous events to produce significant benefits for everyone. And all that being said, we did want to state that we do anticipate the primary challenge for council, if there is one at all, will be likely related to establishing an appropriate rental cost for the arena. Specifically, we do understand that the host committee may be subject to a rental fee that is actually higher than the revenue that would otherwise be generated through regular use. To this, and definitely with all respect, we simply ask the council to consider if there may be any alternatives that may produce value for the town in order to be both fiscally responsible and to provide support to your curling club, a community partner who is very much stepping up to bring so much benefit to the broader community. As one of the central stakeholders in this venture, Curling Alberta will of course contribute itself as well, both financially and through many examples of value in kind. And in closing, again, I believe that we're aligned in our belief that sporting events are important building blocks of healthy communities. Again, I very much thank you for your support and look forward to staging an incredible championship in Hinton next February.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the presentation, Ms. Richard. I'm going to look to council now to see if there's any comments or questions that council has before we let you go. Council. Councillor Haas.
No questions, just thank you for choosing our community. I'm really looking forward to the event and I'm sure our residents are as well. Curling is something that a lot of our residents enjoy watching. So thank you.
Excellent. We look forward to hosting you and hopefully several of you can make it there in person.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further? Okay, seeing nothing, again, we would like to thank you for your time and your presentation today. And we're looking forward to discussing this as one of our action items today.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And that does bring us to action items. And our first is 6.1, 2024 Alberta Boston Pizza Cup Men's Curling Championship.
Thank you, Chair. I will refer this one to Ms. Juke.
Thank you through the chair to the rest of council. The report before you today is to request a partial waiver of the rental fee for use of the Bill Thompson Arena and related recreation center rooms to host the 2024 Boston Pizza Men's Curling Championship in February 2nd through 11th, 2024. Council's ability to waive facility rental fees is contained in policy CS 7200 called the Recreation and Parks User Fee Policy at section 4.5. As host club, the group will supply volunteers and pay all costs of the event up front. They will collect all revenues and share a portion of the gross revenue with Curling Alberta. The remaining funds will be retained by them as fundraising for the club. And the group has hosted such events in the past, and their experience is that the residual revenues are usually quite small. They are offering the town a $10,000 flat fee for use of the facility for the week, in line with flat fees paid to other municipalities by hosting clubs. To put it in perspective, strictly in line with the policy, the charge would be approximately $30,000. On average, the town collects approximately $20,000 from ICE users for that week, past 2 years. And the club has been clear that at either of those two rates, they will not be able to host the event, unfortunately. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Juke. Council, do we have any comments, questions, motions? Councillor LaBerge.
I guess I'll move to the motion and I'll speak to it. And I would like to move that council approves a rental fee of $10,000 for the Hinton Curling Club booking the Bill Thompson Arena in related areas to host the 2024 Boston Pizza Cup Men's Curling Championship, February 2nd through 11th, 2024. And speak to it if I might. We've seen a an awful lot of things come through, and we've moved towards supporting tourism events or reasons to get people into the community. And I think this one really fits the bill. I mean, we can stick to the guns and say that we would take full rent on the facility, but it doesn't make any sense. The competitors are coming here not paying the big fees to support these sorts of things. I just think it's good for the community, and I would just like to see us approve this, move forward with the event.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to say that I support this motion wholeheartedly. I know when curling is on in our house, that's the only thing we're watching. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase our community. So I would support this wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I too will support this. I think this is a great investment in our community. It's going to bring a lot of people to our community. It's something that we haven't seen before in our community, and it'll benefit the surrounding businesses as well. So the opportunity to host this and be able to oblige the rental fee to make it happen, I'm happy to support that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, if there's nothing further, we would call Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Didn't we maybe 15 years ago host something pretty spectacular in our town? Yes. Okay, and that was very successful. Yep, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, anything further? Okay, if not, we will call the motion to question that council approves a rental fee of $10,000 for the Hinton Curling Club's booking of the Bill Thompson Arena and related areas to host the 2024 Boston Pizza Cup Men's Curling Championship, February 2nd through 11th, 2024. If you could please vote now. Not showing for you, Councillor Reese. Okay, and that is carried unanimously. All right, thank you. Council, is there anything further before we move on? Okay. That will take us to action item 6.2, revision to recycle depot hours of operation administration.
Thank you, Chair. I will refer this one to Mr. McLaughlin.
Good afternoon, council, to the chair and the rest of council. I'm presenting today some options on what council would like to see in terms of level of service for the recycle depot here in Hinton. We've worked with the operator of the site on renewing an agreement as the current agreement expired, and we figured it was a good time for council to review how often they would like the facility open, and when it is open, how many of those hours you would like them to be manned or not manned, as well as there's a question in here on whether or not we should be offering service to the schools. Currently, the staff from the recycle depot go to the schools and pick up the recycling and bring it back to the recycle center. So basically, I'm looking for council's input in terms of what they would like to see. We've included our recommendation for hours, but of course, there's unlimited options, and it's council's choice.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Council, are there any comments, questions, motions? Go to Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To administration, What is the length of the contract that we have with them?
Unsure, the one that just expired, it was a fairly long-term agreement, but going forward, we're actually looking to just do a 1-year agreement this time because there's the new producer responsibilities for recycling is coming into place. There is a paragraph about that in the report, and so we don't want to enter into too long of an agreement because we want to see how those changes impact the community in the future.
I have a couple more. I can stand back if you have others in queue.
There are some other people in queue, so if you want to put yourself back in queue, that would be fine.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to the schools, so nothing official was ever, this was just something we were offering, or how did that come about to start it?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Hawes. It's a little unclear of how it got started, but it is a service that our service provider initiated because the schools didn't have sufficient funds or to do it themselves, and they wanted to see recycling happen in the school. They wanted recycling to be taught to kids early on. So it was something that our operator of our facility thought it was good for the community and took on and has been providing that service. And then the town does pay the provider for those hours through our agreement. So it is a cost that the town is paying for, but it's also a service we're providing.
If I may, Mr. Chair. So has it been looked at if we were to continue this, but to look at a fee to the school? Because we don't offer this to any other organization within the community picking up the recycles, correct? Is it just the schools what we're doing?
That is correct. It's only a service being offered to the schools, and we don't even take commercial recycling at the depot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To administration. Has there been any discussion with our citizens, the taxpayers, on what administration is requesting of us?
Through the chair, no, there has not been. We were looking at, no, there hasn't been. We did have staff at the facility count the number of vehicles to try and get a feel for when it's busy and when it wasn't busy. The hours we've selected were based on the highest volume of traffic that was noticed by them. So that, the traffic has been taken into account, but no, there hasn't been a community engagement process. I suppose council could delay this decision and direct us to do that, but you would also have to put forward what hours you're thinking about. I don't think you can go to the community and go, hey, what hours should we be open, and just have a general question. You would have to put forward, this is what we're thinking on doing, and get people's response to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reese. Councillor LaBerge.
Thank you. So then my question falls out of that. I mean, seems to me that and the same thing comes out when we put out the tax survey. They want lower taxes and more services. So I think there's nothing like, showing or counting who showed up and when. I mean, that seems the best vote to where we would go with these. So how diligently did we keep a track of what was going on through those times? Because it would seem to me that that's fantastic data to make this decision.
Through the chair, it was tracked very accurately for a 2-week period. So
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor LaBarge. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, that was my question too. How long did we did we observe this? Yeah, I'm going to come out of the queue right now. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion. And that would be that, and it would be option 3, that council move to keep Rowan's Recycle Depot open as it currently is. And I'm saying that because this is a service level that we're looking to reduce. We're reducing it hours wise, the days, we're taking a look at people's income in all these reductions. And I really think that the citizens in our community, the people who are paying this $60,000 that we could reduce there, they really need to have a say. So I want things to stay status quo, exactly how they are. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, we now have a motion before us. Are there any comments, thoughts, discussion regarding the motion? Councillor Haas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if I can support the motion at this time. I think having a little bit more data and some time to see if those hours are, I mean, for me, I like the hours. I just don't know the rest of the community does. I'm not in favor of 24/7. That's definitely off the tables for me. But I think I'd like to see a little bit more data in the traffic before we make a decision. So I don't want to leave it as the same. I still want to look at the possibilities of reducing hours. So it meets the needs of our community. So even if it would have been a month or so, it would have maybe made a better look at that area for me. So I can't support it to leave it as is, but I would like to see us spend a little bit more time finding out. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor LaBerge?
Thanks. So with the operators, the house on fire, as far as getting the contract in place, like, is this something they really are pushing to get done, need to get done?
Through the chair to the rest of the council. It was something administration highlighted. I mean, we've been operating, on the old agreement, but outside of the completion date for a number of months, and there's no reason why we can't do that for a few months more. It was just, we thought it was due diligence to get it reviewed and re-signed in, and it was a good opportunity to review the level of service while we do that.
Thanks for that. Because I know that oftentimes we're asking for opportunities to save some money. And I mean, we get a comment that says, $60,000 with minimal impact on services. And it just seems like something we should have a look at. So yeah, I won't support it either.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Race?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to refer to page 23, paragraph 3. It talks about our recycling center. It's been in effect for 8 years. It's worked great. And it says it right in that paragraph, how good the recycling area is. So I don't know why we're changing something that is so good. And that's my concern. And if we're going to change things, we really got to go to the people who are going there every day, and let them know what's going on here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, is there anything further? Any more comments or questions before we call the motion to question? Councillor Haas?
Okay, legislatively, my concern is if we defeat this, we come back later, find out that we don't want to change it. What then? Because the motion cannot be brought back. So if we say to leave it or don't leave it, and then is legislatively okay with this if we don't pass this motion, that if down the road we come back and find out we want to keep it the way it is, or
To administration?
Through the chair to members of council, we can certainly look at bringing it back and voting on it again. I would have to double check with our procedural bylaw, but I believe it's a 2/3 majority required to pass something that's previously been defeated. And chair, if I could just add one more point. What we're proposing here is has the possibility to increase services for a significantly cheaper cost. And it's what we're really the crux of what we're bringing forward is a departure from what we've currently done, which is man the recycling center 24 hours a day, which is which none of our municipal neighbors, which is actually fairly uncommon that municipalities staff these kinds of facilities all of the hours that it's open. So by not staffing all of the hours, but enough, we think that we can cut down on any illegal dumping. We can offer even greater services or accessibility to the facility if that's council's wishes for the same price or significantly cheaper. So I just wanted to make that clear that was the crux of where the savings were coming from, but it doesn't have to be the hours proposed if we would like to increase services or keep the hours the same, but maintain the staffing hours as they're proposed during the week. It'll still provide us a savings and it'll still provide the community with the same level of service.
Thank you. Councillor Haas.
Yeah, sorry, I guess I just need a confirmation here. So this depot is not open 24 hours, correct? No. So it's only open during the staffed hours, correct? And we're
That's
just
correct. It's only open during the staff hours, and those hours are reflected in the paragraph on page 23 there, where it's 1, 2, or yeah,
So
right
my-
before that. Yeah.
So my question, so you're proposing 9 a.m. to 12, 3 to 6. Is the facility open from 12 to 3, but unstaffed?
Yes, what we were proposing there is that it would be open from 9 to 6, but only staffed 9 to 12 and 3 to 6.
Oh, okay. That totally changes my perspective on this. Then I guess I misunderstood. I assumed that it was closing at 12 and then you come back and 3 to 6, it's open. And
No,
that was my thought, is the gates would be closed. So this is increasing services.
the difference is closed Sunday. I believe that is the
Yeah.
biggest, that is the biggest change to the service level that we're putting forward.
But the hours during the day, currently, I think they close at 5. We're saying opening them for another hour
Yes.
after what we normally do.
We
during
we
the
thought
week.
that we thought that way, then more people that are working could actually make it there on a weekday. And if it wasn't going to be available on Sunday, the thought was by having an extra hour open on the weekdays, that would give people a chance to, they would still have the Saturday option, and they would have an extra hour in the evening.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That changes. So I won't be in favor then of that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further? Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. I promise, last time I'm going to jump in here. Well, another concern that I notice in this report is, with that gate being open and nobody in there monitoring things, there's a big concern about people coming in and dumping things that we're not going to take. And then I see in the report that you want to put a camera in. The camera would cost about, I don't know, $2,500. And we're going to use that camera to take video of people who come in and drop off stuff that we don't want there. Okay. So now I'm thinking, so what's it going to cost us to take these guys to court? Or what is it going to cost us to get the town people to come in, take the washer dryers, deep freezes, whatever, to the landfill? I just feel that we would be going backwards right now. So, and that's the last I'll speak on this.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quite frankly, I'd be in favor of a camera up there right now, because I believe that people are dropping stuff off that are that they don't want anyway. Only having one person there to me doesn't stop that from happening. It's a large area and people can drop off things and they don't even see it, to be honest with you. So, I mean, technically, I'd like to see a camera there anyway, also for vandalism. We're seeing that a lot in our community. This area hasn't been hit yet. So, you know, I'm hoping maybe even administration considers that with even a change in hours, possibly. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further before we call the motion to question? Okay, seeing no one in queue to speak, if we could see the motion, please. The motion that council moved to keep Rowan Recycle Depot open as it currently is. Council, please vote now. Oh, Councillor Race.
I spoke on just the top part. I did not add the A where it talks about the opinion of infrastructure services.
Okay, so Councillor Race, for this motion, then you'd like that portion removed and to have it and it currently is that correct?
Yeah, so that where it says A, just remove that portion and keep the front.
We'll let administration make that change and then we'll have it brought back. Councillor Race, if you could look at this screen over here, is that what you were
Yep,
looking
looks
for?
good. Yep.
Is it? That's what you want?
Yes, sir.
The motion is that council move to keep Rowan Recycle Depot open as it currently is. This option would offer no savings to the town and would maintain the same service levels. Council, please vote now. And that is defeated 1-3 with Councillor Race voting for. Council. Councillor LaBerge, then Councillor Haas.
Well, that was good information, and given the comments, it's not oftentimes we get to spend less money to do more things. So I actually like the combination. So I'll move to reduce the hours of operation of Rowan Recycle Depot to Monday to Friday, well, as listed. Monday to Friday, 12 till noon, and then 3 till 6, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sunday is closed.
Is that where you wanted it to end?
Yeah, I want,
Councillor LaBerge,
because I
or-
think the whole recycling at the school is a different thing.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess,
Is that the motion?
that
you'd
is.
Like to put forward?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
and I guess my comment is, $60,000 is a big savings. And when the comment is we can increase services doing this, I think it's time to give that a try.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'll be in support of this. And the fact too, that we've had a long standing agreement, but administration saying this is a 1-year contract. This is an opportunity to see if it's working and then, you know, take a look at it in a year. And if needs to change, then we have that opportunity. But I think this is reasonable. And the fact that we're still open without staff there during the day, I think we're safer there. And I think the school thing is a separate thing, so I appreciate it being left out of this one. Hopefully that'll be the next. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I cannot support this. Once again, this is taxpayer money that apparently we're saving, but we're not going to the taxpayers, the people who go to Rowan Center to recycle and ask them what their thoughts are. We're making a decision without their input at all. So I cannot support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. I'd speak to it quickly before we call it to question. I'm in support of the proposed motion too. I don't feel that it materially changes the ability for the facility to operate or for our citizens to access it materially. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of treat it like a pilot project and collect some data on how it works moving forward. And if in a year or so it's not working to the point that we're satisfied with it, we can certainly take another look at it and do another adjustment at that point. Thank you. Council, is there anything further on this before we call it to question? Seeing nothing from council, we can see the motion. We could just move the administration recommends part.
It's there to reduce hours.
Yeah, the council move, I think is probably, probably fine. So the motion is the council move to reduce hours of operation of the Rowan Recycle Depot to Monday to Friday, 9 AM to 12 PM, 3 PM to 6 PM, Saturday, 10 AM to 4 PM, and Sunday closed. Council, please vote now. And that is carried 3-1 with Councillor Race voting against. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this matter, I'd like to move that we continue the recycling pickup to the local schools. And if I may speak to it, we are, I think it's, even though it's maybe kind of an agreement in the past, but I think that's a great opportunity for the kids to learn and be active in recycling. And the time it takes to do that, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's a worthwhile program. It's not very far for some places. So I'd like to see it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any comments, questions? Councillor LaBerge.
This is a hard one because I know what the nice thing to do is. But I mean, homelessness, mental health, and now, this other level of government thing where they just keep putting more and more and more down on municipalities, and it always gets the municipalities' responsibility to do all this stuff. Well, we don't have any tax base to call from it. This is actually the responsibility of provincial government. The schools are supposed to, they'd actually have to pay for somebody to come in and get the recycling. I don't understand why we hire somebody to go and pick their stuff up and take it to the recycle place for free. Like, why don't they pay the guy to bring it to the recycle place for free? So for that reason, I won't support this. And I mean, I think it's a small line item in the operation of the school, but it's fair.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Haas.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, I guess, to administration. And I'm willing to consider withdrawing, to let administration maybe have a discussion with the schools moving forward before we say yay or nay to it, to see what is their willingness to either pay a small fee or something like that, or are they able to? Because I mean, it's one thing we keep doing it, but sometimes we keep doing it and they may be able to. And I mean, they have custodians, they have staff there, so has administration reached out to them to get any input from them?
Through the chair, I don't have any issues with those recommendations. We probably wouldn't get many good responses until September. So, you could definitely direct administration to keep it as is for now. And obviously, we're not doing it through till September either. And we could, communicate with them and bring this back sometime in October. That would be a fine direction.
So on that note, I agree with Councillor LaBarge, and I kind of jumped the gun on this one thinking, but I'd like to move to withdraw my motion, if I may. And for that reason, I think we do have some time to consider reaching out to the schools. So yeah, I'd like to move to withdraw.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. So council, there is a motion from Councillor Haas to withdraw his motion. So we'll get that motion put up. Motion, no, sorry. Okay. So there's a motion from Councillor Haas to withdraw that council direct administration to continue recycling pickup to local schools. Just for confirmation to council, we are voting on the motion to withdraw. We're not voting on the motion itself. Okay, so if you're for, you're voting to withdraw the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, good, Councillor Reese. Please vote now. Okay, the motion to withdraw was carried 3-1 with Councillor Race voting against. So that motion is withdrawn. Councillor Race, I have you in queue.
Oh,
No, okay. Council, Councillor Haas.
Okay, so I'd like to move to direct administration to have a conversation with the schools about the future of recycling at our depot. Is that, would that be sufficient to then have that conversation financially of that? Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the report, was it 2 hours a week that the people from the recycling centers spent going to the schools to collect the recycling?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
2 hours a week to hit 5 schools?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Just a little comment here. Anytime that we can interact with schools, especially with kids, and what a teaching opportunity for these kids, hey, to learn about recycling, I think it's just great. And small price to pay, 2 hours a week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor LaBerge.
Yeah, I'm happy to support the whole recycling thing and provide it for free, but it's just all we're talking about is getting it there. So I think that's fair. But my question is, would there be any, I don't know, contract implications on it as it relates to what we were talking about with Edson recycling? There shouldn't be, as it relates to us doing this for the schools, there shouldn't be any contract implications to that.
No, through the chair, no, the implication is strictly the number of hours that the staff are putting in on the days they were going to pick up the recycling from the school. They were employing 2 people, one to man the facility, the other person to run around and pick it up. Based on council's previous motion, if you chose to continue it, it would probably be during that time where we're going to choose to have it unmanned. The person would leave it unmanned and run around to the schools. But I mean, that would be up to the operator to decide, you know, what they're going to do when. It's just whether or not council wants to provide that service of picking it up from the school or not.
Well, I'm unclear then. Wouldn't you have to write that into the contract? I mean, if they're going to supply that, aren't we talking about whether they're going to supply that or not?
Through the chair, in the contract, we specify the hours that the facility is open. In the past, the contract didn't say anything about the school, but we saw it in the invoicing coming in. So we'll spell out the service that they're providing, and then we pay for the man hours accordingly on the invoices that come in.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. So I do have a question then. If this is going to come back to council at some point in the future, say in the fall, after school starts, and what happens in the interim then? Is the recycling going to be continued to be picked up from the schools, or is that going to be put on a hiatus until council has an opportunity to review it and give some direction?
Through the chair, I would take that as we would continue picking it up from the schools until such time that council would tell us otherwise, because that's what we're currently doing.
So I have a bit of a concern with that, actually. This is it's an item that's not captured under the contract. It's in my understanding, it's not captured through the contract. It's not a service that the town requested. And yet it's a service that's being provided outside the boundaries of the contract that the town is currently paying for. I don't have any opposition to having a discussion about what happens moving forward. And I think if it's the will of council to continue providing this service, that it needs to be captured in the contract and the details of how it works need to be laid out. There's more concerns other than just having the cost of somebody doing that. There's a liability concern there for contracted personnel who are doing things that are outside the contract, but the town is implicitly condoning that by accepting the invoices and paying them. So I've got a few concerns around that. So I'm not sure what to do with it moving forward. As chair, I can't really put any motions forward, but I am a little bit concerned about continuing to provide that service that we've just found out about that's outside the boundaries of the contract. Thanks. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I guess my assumption, thank you again for clarifying. I thought schools are closed, maybe we wouldn't be picking them up. But I guess in the interim, we haven't had those discussions and then we might be. So I have the same concerns. So what would administration recommend at this time then for how to proceed with this? Because before we write up a contract with the service provider, so we have this information.
Through the chair, I don't expect this to be a problem for, as Mr. McLaughlin indicated, well, at least until the kids come back to school. I think we will likely be working with the specific divisions themselves, and there's some ideas as to whether we want to work that into a joint use agreement with the schools as well, but there's nothing to say that we can't incorporate that into the contract later. We can specify the hours that we want to offer as per council's last direction. And then if we are in agreement that the schools would be added, we can simply add that to the contract. That was really at least to our knowledge, contract led to begin with, and it's increased hours for them. So I don't think there would be any issues with adding this to the contract at a later date once council's had that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, council, is there anything further? Okay, seeing nothing from council. We call the motion to question. All right, Councillor Haas, is that the motion that you want?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it needs to be more specific. Direct administration of the conversation with schools in regards to cost. Conversation with the schools. In regards to cost and liability. Because the fact that it's not part of a contract, it concerns me and we're just doing it. So we want to have the conversation to how do we add to it and have it. So any recommendations from administration, please?
Sorry, through the chair, I think that the motion it might be a little bit vague, but I think it's adequate for this stage of the conversation. I think we have our direction and it's clear with us that, this is just a conversation about how it works, understanding the need to codify this into an agreement at some point in time. So I'm comfortable with the motion as it reads.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. I have a question about the motion. And I'm not sure if this is for Councillor Haas or for administration, but what's the intention after the conversation with the schools is had? Is there an intent for it to come back to a committee of the whole for discussion? Is it to come to regular? I'm not sure what happens after the conversation. So Councillor Haas, administration, Councillor Haas.
My intent was, I assumed administration would bring back what that conversation looked like to see then, are they willing parties to participate with financial compensation or how that works? And if they aren't, then it would be a decision of council to whether we continue to proceed or discontinue it. So that was my intent of the motion, is to have administration come back to us once they've had an opportunity to have that conversation with the schools. That was my intent, administration. I'm not sure that was captured.
To administration, do you need anything more in that motion for how that should come back to council at some point in the future?
Through the chair, if we want to specify council's preference as to whether it comes back to a committee or council, we can certainly do that. But as I mentioned before, I'm comfortable with how it reads.
Thank you. Councillor Haas.
If I may, I think this has come to regular. I think this is an opportunity. You go and talk, it's a regular. So I have no problem with direct administration to have a conversation with the schools and bring it back to a regular council meeting. If we can add that to it, I'd be fine with that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Haas. We'll just wait for that change. Good with that, Councillor Haas?
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, council, any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll call to question the motion to direct administration to have a conversation with the schools about the future of recycling pickup and return to a future regular council meeting. Please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Council, is there anything further before we move on? Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say, I mean, I realize this is a small matter, but it is a matter that I appreciate administration bringing to us, because it is a service we've been providing without a contract. And I think it just goes best practice. If we're going to be doing a service, that we have it laid out, we know what it is, so that it's clear to our communities, to our partners, and to, you know, to all those involved. So I realize it might be a small matter, but it's just one of those things that discovering, you know, service that we aren't contracted to do or discussion of. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further? Okay, seeing nothing further from council, we'll move on to our next action item, 6.3, reschedule August 1st council meeting. Administration.
Thank you, Chair, through to council. We are recommending that the August 1st regular council meeting be rescheduled to the day prior, Monday, July 31st. And that is just to accommodate the council workshop. The August 1st travel in the evening, we were anticipating that that we would travel on that day. And so just to have the meeting the day prior to try to accommodate that travel time.
Okay, thank you, CAO Masick. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess just a question then to, I guess, administration. And do we have a full agenda, or perceived to have a full agenda for that week? Like, would it be worthwhile not having one that week? Was that discussed at agenda prep and through administration?
Through the chair to the rest of council, no, and that was my mistake of not bringing it up at the agenda prep. We were just looking at our, the timing of the schedule and realized, just today that the, we were planning on traveling the first for the second and third or for the sessions to start on the second and then go to the third. So we haven't discussed that. We do have a full committee meeting prior to that with some that will, some that are expected to go over into that regular council meeting. I don't believe there's any item that is going to be pressing or time sensitive or emergent. From what I can see, but we will have items on that agenda. So it is at council's preference. We certainly could bump those.
Okay, thank you. Well, without that, and then to my recollection, the next meeting we would have is a committee meeting, which we couldn't make that to post or to cancel it, correct? It would have to be in a regular meeting to cancel a meeting.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay. All right. So I'll move our August 1st to July 31st regular council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we have a motion before us. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. See the motion, please. There is a motion before us that council move the regular council meeting from August 1st, 2023 to Monday, July 31st, 2023. Council, please vote now. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, council. Anything further on this item before we move on? Seeing nothing, that brings us to correspondence section. Over to council. Councillor Haas.
I do have a quick question to administration. I mean, I realize this may be, and you may not have the answer to it, but in regards to the letter from Town of Edson, which thank you for the letter from Town of Edson. But I thought I recalled hearing that our provincial government is looking at reimbursing financially the communities impacted by the fires, whether they were host towns or they were evacuated. Is administration aware of any opportunities that have been brought forward for any costs that were incurred during that time?
Through the chair to the rest of council. So for us as the town of Hinton, we will not be making our own application for this. But what we will do is we will be submitting a bill to the requesting municipalities, being Edson and Yellowhead County. They are still busy and we still haven't gotten a chance to figure out the details of how we're doing that, but it will be the responsibility of those two communities to make the application to the disaster relief program through the provincial government, but we will simply be submitting our invoices for the cost of the reception center to those municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to our conversation regarding changing from August 1st to July 31st, I saw on the screen that it showed that I made the motion. Maybe you've changed that already.
Oh, thank you for that, Councillor Race. Yeah, that was Councillor Haas that made that motion, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Race. Council, anything further for correspondence? I believe we need a motion to accept for information. Do you not?
Yeah.
Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that we accept the correspondence for information, please.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, any comments or questions? Council's moved that the council accept the correspondence for information. Please vote now. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, council. That brings us to section 8, notices of motion, 8.1, Beaver Boardwalk Bridge, Councillor Stuart Taylor. To administration, I'm not sure how to handle this considering Councillor Taylor's not here today.
Through the chair to members of council. So this is just the notice of motion for it to appear as an action item now on the July 31st council meeting. But the notice is that council direct administration come up with a plan to finish off the boardwalk near the bridge. And it's just at this time, simply an information and notice item for council.
All right, thank you, CEO Panasic. With that behind us, then we will move to council reporting. Start to my left, I guess, with Councillor Haas. Where are you? There you are.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor LaBerge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess last Wednesday I did have an opportunity to meet or to attend. I don't know if it's the inaugural meeting, but the DMO board is beginning the process of formulating itself. There's lots of interest from the hotels, which, I mean, that was without that, it wasn't going to work, but it really does seem like it's beginning to come together. And I'd just like to say thank you to Natalie Charlton and all the work she did through the chamber to get us to here. I mean, this is something we've been talking about for probably 12 years, and this is close we've ever been. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to promote Hinton and surrounding area, and it's just nice to see things starting. So next steps will be to approve the bylaws and to make an application as a society.
Great, thank you, Councillor LaBerge. For myself, I think the biggest thing that's of importance to council is that the Beaver Boardwalk Oversight Committee had a meeting yesterday, actually, with a pretty short agenda, but the agenda was quite relevant and important to some of the things that are coming before council. So the concern about the unfinished section of Boardwalk to the south of the Maxwell Lake Bridge ramps was brought forward by the committee to make some recommendations to administration for how to deal with that. And at the meeting last night, there was a motion put forth that recommends administration reprioritize this year's maintenance funds to finish that section of Boardwalk from the end of the south ramp to really specify to where, but to where it starts up the hill to the south, so it gets up out of the water. The motion was to build that section 1.8 meters wide with at least 2 inches of clearance underneath the boardwalk. So that was a recommendation that was put forth to administration. Administration indicated that they felt that there was sufficient funding in this year's maintenance budget to be able to undertake that work pretty quickly here, so they could get that section constructed. But it does bring me to a question, though, that I would need to ask to administration regarding the notice of motion that came forward tonight. Since the notice is for administration to present a plan to deal with that same section to council, is that going to delay administration's ability to construct that section of Boardwalk, considering they now have a recommendation from the committee and the funds are available? What I don't want to see is construction of that section of Boardwalk delayed while we're waiting for a plan to come back to be presented to council and for council to give direction to administration. So if administration could speak to that, please.
Through the chair to the rest of council, I believe that the next thing that we would be prepared to bring forward to council is the plan and the request to build that section. It's, because what I understand is there's water in front of that bridge and we need to do something, at least on a temporary basis, if not on a permanent. So looking at those options is what we're going to bring forward. We don't need to wait, and we won't be waiting as administration to the 31st to get approval through that notice of motion in order to take action. We'll be creating that plan and that report based on the recommendations that have come forward through the Beaver Boardwalk Committee, and we'll be bringing that forward as soon as we can.
Is there any kind of a projected timeline for that? My understanding was that the maintenance department was basically ready to go. They had the funding available, and then with the recommendation from the BBOC that they could start pretty quickly on it.
Through the chair to the rest of council, I'm not aware of where they're at right now based on the latest committee meeting, but I'll have to double check, and I can certainly follow up with council just by email and let you know what the plan is for that coming forward. But that notice of motion will come forward, and I can certainly provide an update, if nothing else, to council and the community at that time.
Okay. Thank you, CEO Panasic. That's it for myself. That brings us to Chief Administrative Officer reporting and status report. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Chair, to the rest of council. I don't have anything additional to add, but on page 31 to 35 of your council agenda, I do have our administrative highlights report. And if there's any questions on any of the items in there, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you for the report. I do have a couple questions from council. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, to CEO Panasic, I noticed, and it's great, with the family wellness fair coming up here in August, there's a one-off financial request for audio equipment. But I'm just curious if there was any discussion on tents. I was wondering if anyone reached out and asked the town for that, if they were available and possible to erect those for that event. Did that conversation occur?
Through the chair to members of council, I had talked with a representative of the family wellness fair, and based on our conversation, I believe they made alternative arrangements for the tents, and they hadn't requested them. So, but we were able to accommodate the audio equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor LaBerge.
Thank you. Under the water treatment section, everybody's favorite thing to do in town council is the one thing I found, I don't know if alarming is the right word, but where it talks about losing a lot of water through bleeders, leaks, breaks. Is that a implicit comment on the state of that current facility, or is that something we're going to learn more about when the reports come back?
Through the chair, and I'll pass it over to Mr. McLaughlin, as he likely has some more information to add. But I think we just wanted to highlight this as a concern of administration. You know, when the power goes out, we would certainly like to have, you know, at least 4 days worth of water. 30 hours, that's a very tight timeline. That leaves a very narrow margin of error when you're going through things like a plant shutdown where things can go wrong, or any other incident where that water treatment plant may go down. So it is just flagged as a concern. We do know that we have very high water usage here in the town of Hinton, and it's just something of concern that we wanted to flag. But when we did undergo the shutdown, our reserves of water were depleting much quicker than I think we were comfortable with.
Good, Councillor LaBerge.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, that's why, but if two, it only lasted a third as long as you wanted it to last. So I mean, we're gonna be leaking that much water on an ongoing basis. I guess that's my concern is, is this a facility comment as much as a safety comment? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just have a quick question about the vandalism. It mentions Switzer Booster Station, Thompson Lake Reservoir. What kind of vandalism are we seeing? Is this graffiti or is this property damage of any sort that's occurring? And we've also seen the post I saw on Facebook, other vandalism in our community. Now we're no strangers. I know our neighboring community of Edson has also experienced some vandalism as well. But what are we looking at here for our community in regards to that?
Yeah, there wasn't anything that required major repair at the Switzer booster station. Specifically, they had piled up wood up against the building and it looked like there was more intent than what actually occurred. And then on the other sites, I think it's, probably just people are up there with ATVs and such and are going on the facility and that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. I guess it's a question as to, I mean, I don't know if cameras are the answer or whatever, but, protect some of our sites and the fact that they're piling wood for what, and what they might be doing and things like that. So I guess, are we in conversation with our local RCMP to maybe doing some patrols more often out in those areas just to try and have a presence in some of these areas? As I know our bylaw officers or peace officers, I mean, are probably not working at the time this is occurring, but
yes, we are in communication with our protective services over a few of the different incidents that have occurred that concern us. And in addition, we are looking at probably putting in a capital ASTA fence this Switzer booster station for next year, which we can discuss when that time comes.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To administration. First off, to Councillor LaBerge, I'm really happy you brought up the water conversation. My first question to admin is, would you know what our usage is as compared to other communities? And if you don't, that's okay. But for us to only have 30 hours as opposed to what we should have, 3 to 4 days, what's our usage?
So when this, through the chair, when this information came in, we did have a look at it and tried to do some calculations for that. We took the volumes that were used and we took off what we know about industrial and commercial usage, which just leaves us residential usage. And we estimate that currently we are running about 600 liters per day per person. And that would correspond to a provincial recommended value of about 350. So we're approaching double the usage that we should be for our residential usage.
May I continue, sir?
Sure.
So would that 600 liters take in the leakage or that we're experiencing?
So yeah, without having water meters in the homes, we do not know whether that is leakage in the homes, usage, or leakage in our lines. We have no way of determining where that water's going, but it would be through those three places.
So you know what, with water being such a precious commodity and everybody's talking about water nowadays, and the Athabasca or the Athabasca, I mean, it looks like it's going to have water for the next 100 years, but it may not. What are we doing or what can we do with this issue?
Through the chair, I'm currently working on a complete PowerPoint presentation, and it's one of the large topics that you'll be talking about at at your retreat. So this is definitely one of the top topics that we want council's input to help steer us where we go in terms of solving this problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Reese. Councillor LaBerge.
Thanks. Give me a technical lesson. What's an HDD? I'm talking about the water project. So they want to do a clean cut because the HDD will not be successful. That must be hydraulic something to put the pipe under the road. Is that what they're doing?
Through the chair, that's horizontal directional
Oh, okay.
drilling.
It is.
And yes, the contractor with the ground conditions there did not feel comfortable proceeding with that. We had some specialized contractors come out and talk to us and provide their input. And so we're working with the contractor through those issues on the other alternatives that they're putting forward to accomplish the project.
So we're actually going to open the road up when we cross Switzer.
We did open up the road on Hardesty instead of doing HDD, and we installed the water line above the culverts that are there. But when we get to Schweitzer, we have to look at different options because with the bridge, we can't install a pipe over like we did on Hardesty. We have to go under. So we'll be working with the contractor to look at either lining the existing pipe that's there and renewing it, or potentially doing a shorter horizontal directional drill, or we might even look at do what they call a case bore, where you excavate down and you push a casing through, clean out the casing, and then put the water line through a casing. So the contractor is determining price and scheduling for about 3 different options, and we'll be sitting down with him and choosing one of those options.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When you get a lot of these highlights, you get a lot of questions, but I appreciate it. But I did want to also just mention, I appreciate the work being done. I see 78% compliance so far on our short-term rentals and vendors licensing, so that's good. I just any comment that 78%, is that has that included independent housing Airbnbs that they're not the permanent residents, or are those the ones that are in non-compliance?
Through the chair to the rest of council, my understanding is that 78% was all of the Airbnbs that we could track down through all of the different websites at that time. Now, 78% compliance, I just want to clarify that might be a little bit misleading because that was based on our first round and that was done a little while ago. But the Airbnbs and these short-term rentals pop up very quickly. So we already have a new list going on a number of new short-term rentals that are coming up. So that 78% was on all of the short-term rentals that we could determine in Hinton for that first round earlier this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Okay, council, if there's nothing further regarding the Chief Administrative Officer reporting, that brings us to the end of our agenda for today. We need one more motion. Councillor Haas.
I move to adjourn, Mr. Chair. Nope, I move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Did I turn you off? Sorry. Okay. Motion that council meeting adjourn at 5:30 PM. Everybody, if you could please vote. And that's carried unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.